when you ask about success, I have another client who was working for Salesforce. And she wanted to be a makeup artist, a professional makeup artist. And she interviewed a bunch of people. And when she did the discovery call with me, she said, "Can you help me quit my job in 6 months?" And I said, "I don't know. Let me see your stuff. Put it in the chat. Let me see your website. Let me see what you're doing." And I went and looked. And I said, "Yeah, I can help you quit your job in 6 months." This woman now has a podcast. This woman, actually, I introduced her to the other woman who flew me to New York. And the woman who flew me to New York this year hired her to be the MC at that same event. And they talk about me all the time. I can't tell you how many clients I have because somebody said, "Well, Naima told me to call you," or "Delina told me to call you."
Welcome to Success Leaves Clues, the podcast where we interview business owners on how they built their businesses and the hard lessons they learned along the way. My name is David Swin, and I'm a business coach and the founder of Purple Circle, where we help business owners achieve their first 6-figure, 7-figure, and 8-figure year, all without sacrificing their quality of life. Before becoming a business coach and before founding Purple Circle, I started and scaled several 7- and 8-figure coaching businesses and have been a consultant at several businesses doing over $100 million each, including some that are publicly listed and doing over $1 billion each. In every episode of the podcast, you're going to learn lessons that took our guests years to learn, and you'll be able to learn that in minutes. No matter if you're a new business owner or an established business owner, every episode is going to give you the clues in order to elevate your business.
Welcome to Success Leaves Clues podcast. I'm Pedro, and today I'm joined by Crystal Wright, whose extraordinary career path from Xerox account executive to Hollywood agent for creatives has given her a perspective on professional reinvention that very few coaches can match. Crystal has channeled 20 plus years of experience as a career and business coach, motivational speaker, and trainer into empowering women and teams to identify and reclaim their 100% in ways that make each day genuinely count. Her book, 30 Days at 100%, Changing Your Life 30 Days at a Time, captures the practical, transformational approach she brings to workshops, individual coaching, and educational events designed to help women in corporate America find and amplify their voices. Crystal's mission is clear: help individuals achieve their goals, feel productive, respected, and confident about their futures, one bold step at a time. Welcome to the show, Crystal.
Ooh, that sounded fabulous. Can I use that all the time?
You can. I'm for hire. No, I'm kidding. You know what, Crystal? Whenever someone compliments their intro, which is me telling their achievements, I always say, that's you to blame, right? Not my doing. You did all that. I was in Brazil just chilling, and you were, rock and rolling all the time. Now, Crystal, I'm kind of a comic book nerd myself, and I'd love to rewind a bit, back to the origin story, the first edition, because you could be doing multiple things. It could be a plumber, it could be a chef, but here you are. You're a coach. Can you walk me through that journey and why did you took it?
That's a good question. So I didn't intend to be a coach. I had quit my job at Xerox to represent a photographer. He fired me. His makeup artist asked me to be her agent. And the first job we worked on was Janet Jackson, right? That was the first job we worked on. I didn't know what I was doing. In fact, on that very first job, I didn't know I was supposed to get 15% from the artist and I was supposed to charge the production company another 15%. And so this is how I got started representing artists. Along the way, I met a woman, Ilka, who was a rep, and she helped me understand the business because I'd only been with that photographer 6 months. And so as time went on, I started getting good at my job. I was booking artists on big gigs, booking them $1,200, $1,500, $3,500 a day. Imagine a hairstylist getting $3,500 a day. But along that journey, I got a letter from an artist who had just spent thousands of dollars, or her parents had, on makeup school, and she didn't know how to get a job. She didn't have a clue. She was getting ready to move back home, but she was in Hollywood. And so I got this great idea that I was going to write this 16-page manual that was going to teach artists how to get work. And when I finished, it was 180 pages. I self-published it. Nobody would carry it except one bookstore in LA. The guy told me nobody was going to buy it for $39.95. He took 10 of them because I drove up in my Volkswagen Jetta on Sunset Boulevard, got out of the car, took the books out of the trunk of my car and asked him, please take them. He said, nobody's going to buy them for that much money. He called me back 2 weeks later, ordered 25. They were all gone. 2 months later, he went to the American Booksellers Association in Chicago, called me from there and ordered 250. I said, not that $39.95 book nobody was going to buy. He said, I don't know what to say. So that was the beginning of me becoming a career expert. That was how I became the person that you come to if you want to have a successful business. I got invited to speak at all kinds of events, makeup shows, all these different things. I was always on stage. I used to sell my books out if I spoke. If I spoke, there would be a line at my booth and the books would be gone and we'd have to take orders. So that led me into somebody asking me, well, can you help me individually to build my business? And that is how I became a coach. And originally, I didn't even know what to charge. I was like, she's like, well, how much? And I was like, I don't know, $75 an hour. Okay. And the funny thing is that was always the indication. If I ask a client for a rate and the client said, like one time we got a chance to do CoverGirl and they said, well, Tyra wants Nico. What's his day rate? And I said, $2,500, which was twice what he was getting. And they went, oh, okay.
Just that?
And I was like, oh my God, I left all his money on the table. Right? So I started with that. That's how I got started. And I can remember, just do it like an hour and then doing an hour and then doing an hour. And then I realized, well, I need to do something a little bit different. So I started with my little package, right? And it was a certain amount of hours for a certain amount of money. And over time, I developed my Power X coaching program, which at the time didn't even have a name. I was winging it. Pedro, I was winging it.
Just being you and showing up.
Just being me and showing up and preparing. There's a saying, my partner Stewie used to say, proper planning prevents piss poor performance. And it was actually a combination of the planning properly, being ready, and then seeing my clients have results that gave me the confidence to keep raising my rate. And then I created a policy for myself because I believe in foundations and procedures and systems. And the policy was I raise my rate twice a year. And I just never looked back.
Just because, just rock and rolling. Just it's going to happen.
Well, and because I was getting better. Because here's the thing, I was the judge of whether or not I was getting better, whether or not the results were becoming more impactful. What kind of impact was I making? The people I was coaching were having success. Not only were they having success, they were writing me letters. And I was like, I need a raise. And that's what I would say. I would just give myself a raise. And when people would ask me, I was going to hire you last year, but your prices have gone up. And I go, yeah, that's all, Pedro. Yeah.
You're late.
Yeah.
Right?
You have to believe in what you're doing and you have to reward yourself appropriately. And you have to know, I won't say what the market will bear, but you have to know what your value is inside the market that you're competing in. Because some people simply will not hire you if you don't charge enough.
Okay. Perception of value. Let's go with that. I love that. I always brings me back to a meme I saw on the internet. It was like, there was a sidewalk of fridge, okay? And there was like a note saying, free, take it, okay? Stays there for a week. And then someone changes to a price, right? A price tag, $100, sidewalk, vanishes the next day, So it's the perception of value. It's the understanding that if it's free, some people will perceive as worthless because you're not protecting your time. Something like that?
Yes, exactly. And the thing is, a lot of times service providers, which is what we are, don't actually take the time to evaluate how they add value. It's a sales thing from Xerox. It's like, I am not going to compete with you on price. Xerox was always the most expensive copier. So I would never talk to people about price. You have to talk to people about, you have to give people the benefits. You have to listen so you understand their needs, and then you speak to their needs. And then when it's time, you just have to say, this is what I always say. I said, do you want to learn a little bit more about how I work? That's what I say to them. Do you want to know how I work? Yeah. Well, first of all, let me tell you, it's this much money. And then let me show you what my process is. And then I go through the fact that I have an assessment. On my Google Docs, I have a set of documents that are already created to share with potential clients. I'm telling you right now, when they see that assessment and they find out that it's 30 something pages, like 34 pages, and I show it to them online and I go through and these are the questions I ask you, that's all it takes, because it's the seriousness of it. And it's broken up into sections, everything from I want to know what kind of support system do you have?
We're coming from winging it to a 35-page report. That's basically what you're telling me today.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And it just really makes it possible for me to show the structure, because the fact is some of them are winging it. They don't want their coach to be winging it.
Okay. There's some due diligence, obviously, and people want to know you're serious. So there's that. Now, I'm curious about one thing, because in the early days of coaching, right? And we're talking about 20 years in the game, and people evolve, your business evolved, right? And in the early days of coaching, as I was saying, sometimes we're trying, as a coach, sometimes we're trying to help everyone, right? We're like, okay, maybe I can help you, I can help you. But eventually, we got to a point that you understand who you can actually serve best, right?
Yes.
So who are the people that kept showing up? Then you realize, okay, this is my tribe. So who do you serve now?
I serve people who are ready for transformation. Originally, when I started out, I was only working with makeup artists, hairstylists, and fashion stylists and photographers. But here's what I realized, and it goes back to Xerox. The product is different, but the process is the same. Since then, I worked with a woman who was starting a wine distribution business in France, and I'm in the United States and she's in France. And I didn't know anything about the wine business, but I was able to get a book. And as I went through what it was she was trying to do and understanding it, I realized there was very little I had to change about my process. So what the people that I serve are people who are ready for transformation, and they're ready to do the work. Because let me tell you, not everybody's ready to do the work. And the only people I've ever had problems with were the people who came to me expecting that I was going to do the work for them and give them all the answers. And it's not like that. The other thing is, Pedro, that I always say, I'm not for everybody. I curse. If that's going to bother you, I'm not your girl. And I tell people that up front. I say, if you're going to be offended by me saying this word, then you don't want to work with me, right? The other thing is, I don't coddle people. So I have to assess whether or not the person that's coming to me is somebody that wants to be coddled or somebody who wants the truth, right? I have a client now, and she just re-upped with me for another 12 sessions. But you would have thought in the middle of the first 12, she would not have. We had a moment where she actually said to me, basically, I can't remember exact words, but I really don't like the way you're talking to me. That's what she was, because it was the truth and she didn't really want the truth. And so she said it to me on a text message and I did not respond. We had a session coming up, and when we got on the session, you know what I said to her? I said, "Are you still mad?" And she started laughing. I said, "Let me know if you're still mad. I need to know if you're still upset." And she just started laughing. And from that moment on, our relationship changed, because between the time that she was upset And the day we had our session, she'd had some kind of revelation that whatever I'd said to her was the truth. And now she comes to me for the truth. And every time we meet, like she wants to start this business. And I'm telling her, one of the things you're going to have to consider based upon your vision is that you're going to have to get money from somewhere else. Otherwise, you're going to be standing in your kitchen making soap. And she wasn't open to it. But the last session we had, she said, you're right. I'm not going to be able to do this without money. Yes. And that's why I'm preparing you for that. I'm preparing you for the day that somebody walks up to you and says, how can I help you? Because if you don't have an answer, you lose. I'm preparing you to know what your numbers are. I'm preparing you to be ready to accept the good thing that's coming to you as long as you plan properly, as long as you're prepared. So I don't know if that answered your question.
Yeah, it does. It does. I love it. Okay. Now let's pretend I am one of those people who are ready for a transformation, right? I am your ideal client profile. I'm your avatar, whatever I want to call it. Let's say I'm your potential client, the ideal one, the perfect one. First of all, how would I be able to find you marketing wise?
I'm everywhere. I've got a website. I'm on social media. I'm on Crystal Wright Live. Crystal Wright Live all over the place. If you go to Instagram, if you go to TikTok, if you go to YouTube, you're going to find me, Crystal Wright Live. And I have a new website though that will be out maybe Wednesday, Thursday. Which is crystalwright.com, because I really want to. Was that my computer making that noise? Yeah, hold on.
Potentially. No problem.
I'm just going to quit. Hold on. I know what it is. It's the email. I need to quit my email. I forgot that. There we go. Is it gone? It likes to hang out here.
Right.
I almost did everything right, Pedro. I just forgot the email.
You're good. We can cut it out. You're good.
Okay. So give me your question again. Because I lost my.
So
where to find me? You said where to find me. So what I was saying is I'm separating my business that was specifically dedicated to makeup, hair, and fashion stylists primarily. And I'm launching crystalwright.com. And that is going to be dedicated to my coaching, my books, and my speaking.
Okay. Now I'm still that person. Okay. I'm still your ideal client profile. We're in the same scenario still. And I went through your website. I saw your content out there on social media, Instagram, LinkedIn, whatever, right? And I'm feeling it. I'm like, Crystal got it. I want to talk with her. When I work with her, that resonated with me. We went through the sales process. We can speed up a little bit on that. Let's say there is alignment. You sense you can help me. I'm coachable too. I sense you can help me. You have something I need, right? Can you walk me through how does it look like to work with you? Okay, that's one thing.
Yeah.
And the potential outcomes I can expect out of it, just to have a sense of things, a little peek behind the curtain.
Okay. So the first thing that happens is we do a discovery call. And I love a discovery call. I was going to answer one of your other questions that you sent me. But so the first thing I do is a discovery call, which is like 20, 25 minutes. And the whole goal of that and the purpose of that is to find out if we're a fit. So that's the first thing. If we determine that we are a fit, then I say to the potential client, would you like to see a little bit of how I work with my clients? And I explain to them, I start with an assessment. And the assessment is not something you sit down and do in an hour. My clients usually take 10 to 14 days before they get it back to me, because it's a deep dive. I want to know really, really what's going on. Because what I have discovered is that what the client shares with you in a discovery call and what they put into that assessment reveals what it is that they're trying to do, what they're best suited for, and how I can create a plan for it. So once they say, okay, Crystal, let's work together, I say, let me send you over my agreement, which you have to sign, and an invoice. And they can either pay it all up front. They can give me a deposit and make monthly payments up to like 4 monthly payments. They have to give me a $3,500 deposit and 4 monthly payments. I actually like doing it that way because I like knowing I have money coming in every month, right? And it keeps you honest because you have to perform in order to get paid, even though you got a contract. So it's not like they can get out of it. That's not the point. So once we've agreed to work together, then I have a couple of emails that go out that tell them everything I need them to know. Because I have a coaching journal that I physically send out to my clients, there are pages in there that they have to photograph with their phone. But it's so specific that I make them download a scanner app because I print those documents out. And so, you know what, Pedro, either you're training them or they're training you, right? Either you're
That is
training
so
your
true.
client. It's like anything. It's like dating. You're training people how to treat you, and you're giving them the system up front so that when they start asking questions to things you've already answered for them, I can point them back to the email. I'm not your kindergarten teacher. I'm your coach, right? So
Right.
I've given them in these emails everything they need to know. They know what's going to happen. They know how it's going to work. There's a Google Doc all set up for them. Their recordings, they know when they're going to get them. I even tell them that you need to download the recordings at least once a month so that you have them on your hard drive because they get filed away. And if you come to me after and ask me to do it, you're going to get charged for somebody to go into the hard drive and pull those back out and upload them and send them to you. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And it works because people like structure, process, procedures, and systems. And then the paperwork and the payments so that everybody's clear about what's happening. Even when people show up late, I tell them, if you show up late, your session does not get longer, right? If you don't show up at all, you get docked for 30 minutes. That is $400 and something you're going to lose. But then for accountability, you know what I tell my clients in those same documents? That if I have to cancel within less than 24 hours, and them too, it's at 30 minutes. If I have to cancel, you're going to get another 30 minutes from me. It's got to be the accountability, as far as I'm concerned, has to be even. And so that is the process. We schedule all the way out all of our sessions, even if we have to change them later, because I always say to my clients, life happens. I get it. You know, you have an anniversary, you already have a vacation plan, but we're going to put everything in the calendar and then we're going to make adjustments. This is not going to be a helter-skelter, because if somebody's coming to you, they've got all kinds of challenges. And one of those challenges a lot of times is self-accountability. So you become their accountability partner. If you don't create structure for them, they never get used to the structure that they need to accomplish the goal, which is the reason they came to you in the first place. So you're not just helping them, you're showing them how to create their own system once you're not there anymore. I'll tell you something else I tell my clients. I am here to teach you to fish so you can eat for the rest of your life. My happy place is not having you tethered to me for the rest of your life. If you need me for the rest of your life, I'm not doing something right. I haven't given you the tools. I haven't given you the information. I haven't given you the tools. You know, sometimes people are having a crisis of information. Sometimes they're having a crisis of confidence. It's our job to help them with both of those things. A crisis of information is somebody who wants to build a business and they're not sure how to do it. A crisis of confidence is somebody who keeps self-sabotaging and they can't move forward. So we got to figure out what that is and help them get through it. But you want them to go out on their own. I want my clients to go out on their own because those are the ones that are still talking about me. Let me tell you what success is. I had a client that I have been coaching on and off for a few years. Last year, she was hosting this big, huge event in the hair industry. She is now a hairstylist who works on the biggest covers, the biggest celebrities and all that. And she created this event called Texture on Set. Do you know that she flew me first class? to New York, sat me in the front row of her event. She said, I want you to see what I have become. That's huge. She brought me to New York. She said, I
Right.
want you to see what you have created. She has huge sponsors like L'Oreal, Olaplex, all these big companies sponsoring her. And this was her second year doing it. And at that event, there was a Q&A going on, and I had something to say, and I stood up and said, let me have that microphone. I stood up and talked, and guess what? A week later, I got hired to go to LA to sit on a panel for L'Oreal, right?
It's almost like a ripple effect, right?
It is. And when you
Yeah.
ask about success, I have another client who was working for Salesforce. And she wanted to be a makeup artist, a professional makeup artist. And she interviewed a bunch of people. And when she did the discovery call with me, she said, can you help me quit my job in 6 months? And I said, I don't know. Let me see your stuff. Put it in the chat. Let me see your website. Let me see what you're doing. And I went and looked. And I said, yeah, I can help you quit your job in 6 months. This woman now has a podcast. This woman, actually, I introduced her to the other woman who flew me to New York. And the woman who flew me to New York this year hired her to be the MC at that same event. And they talk about me all the time. I can't tell you how many clients I have because somebody said, well, Naima told me to call you, or Delina told me to call you.
All because you set up some boundaries, if you think about it, right? You set up the accountability. You level the playing field of how working with you looks like, right? Because if you stuff like that, let it slide. I remember I was a high ticket sales closer for a business coach. And he said something that really stayed with me. If you don't have systems, your employees will create themselves systems and you might not like the result. It's just like you were talking about, you're training people on how to behave with you, right? It's just like if you let it slide, someone will build something, will treat you in a different way that you're not used to because you didn't set up the boundaries, and you're going to hear about the consequences for the good and for the bad, right?
And what the coach should be doing is setting up the systems and then giving their employees the freedom to innovate within that system so that they can help you improve what you created, right?
It's like you give freedom, you empower them through a structure.
Yes. And the thing is, Pedro, that when you don't, I guarantee some people have coaching businesses and everything goes along fine. They get paid. They don't have any issues, blah, blah, blah. And then you start raising your rate. And then the client who comes to you at the biggest amount you've ever charged, when you don't have a system, that's the one you get screwed on. That's the one who doesn't pay you. And you didn't set up a system, because how often do we as service providers say something like, well, I just don't have time to do that right now. And I'm here to tell you, you don't have time not to do it, because because when things go right all the time, especially with your money, it gives you a false sense of security that it's always going to go right. And I've had it happen with me, and it took somebody doing a huge chargeback on me, and I ended up getting my money. But had I had one other step in between, that would never have happened. But guess what? As soon as that happened, I built that step in between, and I created a DocuSign document, because the headache and the time expended putting together the documentation to send to the credit card company to prove that, in fact, I had done what I said I was going to do that was in my literature. If I had just had that contract signed, it wouldn't have happened.
That's a classic one. It's like you never had the necessity or to have a contract. It was all going good, and eventually, like, yeah, this is just going to be happening from now on. And then something bad happens and you have to restructure and all that. But I love the lesson learned. You know, you gotta understand that what worked yesterday is not going to work tomorrow. And sometimes we have to go through lessons, right? That's totally normal. quite a way. Now, Crystal, I'm curious about one thing and shifting gears for a second.
Mhm.
About future, right? It sounds like you already established change your website, you're changing a little bit on the positioning. So looking ahead, where do you see the business going? Are you thinking about scaling, hiring, or is there a next step you're excited about?
The step that I'm excited about is 30 days at 100%. And being able to create programs for people inside of that. I want to take it to corporations because it will work with sales forces. I already have, and how I got the idea for that is I had a guy, I was hired by L'Oreal to do a tour with Mazzani, and they bought 500 books. See, this book was already out and I pulled it, but I sold like 5,000 copies. So now I've redone it. And what I'm excited about is taking it not just to the consumer on Amazon, but taking it to in corporate environments, to taking it into corporate environments to change mindset, to help people self-define their own 100%. That's what I'm excited about, scaling that. So right now, I'm in a space of pivoting. And you know what? This brings us to another thing because I can't see growing my coaching business with more makeup artists, hairstylists, fashion stylists, manicures, and photographers. I can't grow it that way. Now, luckily, I have been consulting for a nonprofit, and that has brought me different kinds of coaching clients. It brought me a landscaper. It brought me a commodities broker. Okay. So it's opened me up to new things. And now as I go into bringing 30 days at 100% to market and going back into corporate America where I came from, that is what I'm excited about because I understand. I mean, you sold high ticket for a coach. I sold copiers. I started out selling copiers that were $3,000 and I left selling copiers that were $110,000, right? I understand that environment. I also understand the challenges that employees have in those environments and managers have in those environments trying to inspire people. So, dude, that's where I'm going.
It's hilarious.
This
You have
is
so much energy.
Look at that. This is my Amazon copy, my last not for resale Amazon copy. I am not messing around because 30 days at 100% is right for programs. And I do have, believe it or not, a guy who I was saying earlier, who got the book at an event I was doing for Mazzani Hair Care. He called me up a year later and he said, I never told you this, but I was in charge of 3 salons out of 10, and they were in the bottom 3. I was brought in to take them, improve their performance. He said, I wanted to let you know I used 30 days at 100% to take them from 8, 9, and 10 to 1, 2, and 3. I said, what? What? And one of the phone calls I'm making tomorrow is to him because the owner of those 10 salons, he told her that I was redoing the book. She said, when she does, we'll buy it for the whole team. So that's where I'm going. That is the scaling that I want to do now. And I'll be honest with you about something. The thing for me, because I'm as flawed, I don't want to use the word flawed, but I am challenged like everybody else. And the thing for me is how I'm going to create the program that goes into corporations and teaches them how to implement 30 days at 100% into their personal lives or into their professional lives or a little bit of both. Because sometimes the reason you're not performing well in your corporate life is because of what's going on in your personal life. We know that for entrepreneurs, but it is also happening with the secretary, with the office manager, right? It's
100%.
happening. It's happening with those people too. And you know how you said so many times about we talked about boundaries. One of the reasons people underperform is because they haven't set boundaries. No is a complete sentence, Pedro.
That is true. Okay. Before we wrap it up, I want to do a little science fiction moment here. Let's pretend you do have a time machine in front of you. Okay, Crystal, you can go back in time and give past Crystal, when she was starting the business, the coaching business, one business advice. Okay, what would that be? That you didn't knew back then that you wish you knew. You know?
What a fabulous question. What advice? Invest and get mentored by people who know more than you. Invest early in mentors and coaches who know more than you. Because just like we keep people from making mistakes, we need somebody to help us to be able to move around the landmines that are there. My gosh, don't let me get started. That's it. That's it. I would have not thought I was so smart. I would have recognized early that there were people who were smarter than me who could help me to skip over, go around, go under the landmines so that I could get where I was trying to go faster.
Powerful reminder. I love that, Crystal. Now,
Mhm.
if someone listening wants to connect with you or follow your work, and we're going to have all the links in the description, but where can people find you best and connect with you?
Well, they can email me, Crystal at crystalwrightlive.com. They can DM me on Instagram. I respond to all my DMs at Crystal Wright Live. Or they can, if they wait until this Thursday, they can connect with me at crystalwright.com.
Okay. Well, Crystal, a few moments from today really stood out to me. I'm going to highlight them real quick. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
First, when we were talking about the origin story, you told me I didn't knew what I was doing and what to charge. I love the honesty, love the vulnerability. A key asset for a true coach is to own their own story so they can meet their coachee at the same level. They're asking hard questions, only fair. They are open about their own struggles too, So kudos to you. I love that.
Okay.
Moving forward, the starting point with the coach, with the book, right? $39.95, if I'm not mistaken, back in the day, which was a lot. And you were kind of challenged by that guy who was like, "Yep, I don't think this is gonna sell," and it did. And that started the entire journey we're seeing right now, right? Folding in my own eyes. Also, I love when we were talking about when you were onboarding me, right, into your coaching practice, and you established the minimum levels of engagement, as people call it today, which is, this is how much I charge, buddy. Does this feel like comfortable? Because I see a lot of coaches out there, Crystal, and they have this type of scarcity mindset when sometimes they're like, they don't want to talk about price because they feel like icky, or they're not confident about the transformation they're actually doing, or they're like feeling it's too much because they're selling with their wallet and that's a lot of money. So I love the fact that you upfront just tell it the way it is. So there's that. Also, great reminder. Last but not least, when you mentioned the Xerox example, which is kind of a positioning bit, which you said product is the same, right? And then you got to the nonprofits and then the landscaper guy and all that. At the end of the day, it's an identity piece. It's about a marketing strategy. It's positioning. If you get the delivery going on, you can help. It's just sometimes to communicate that, so people can understand that you actually can help them. So that's also an important reminder, right? Now, this is just my long-winded way of saying, Crystal, I appreciate what you do. I appreciate you being here and sharing so openly today. Okay? It was great having you on.
Thank you. I really enjoyed it. I had so much fun.
That's it for this episode. This episode, as well as this podcast, was brought to you by Purple Circle, where we help business owners elevate their business to 6, 7, and 8-figure years, all without burning out. If you're looking to grow your business, as well as get the time freedom that you are looking for, visit us at joinpurplecircle.com and see what we can do to help you and your business.